I'm joined now by an actress who's been very successful both over here in the UK as well as across the pond in Canada, particularly for her voiceover work. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce actress Ingrid Bauer. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. During COVID, considering. No, I feel okay.
And you're managing to keep yourself busy during these strange times?
Not busy as an actress because I was blacklisted here in Canada because I tried to get more work for women. So that's sort of further down the road if you want to hear about it, when you want to hear about it. I still can't get over it, the loss of my career. It was like I had an incredible career in England and in Canada. And I got the award for Best Voiceover in Canada. And I became really famous, but I was really annoyed that in England, it's so different. In England, they have a very strong union, and Vanessa Redgrave was part of that. And they made sure there was also like more or less equal work for women as actors. Here, it's not the same. It's a male-dominated society here, acting. It's pretty awful. And I guess I mean, really, this is like towards the end of my career. But we can always go back, right, to the beginning here. But what got me is that when I got the award for Best Voiceover in Canada, I went round to all the people I'd worked for and said, no, that voiceover could be done by a woman, not a guy, because we were only getting 10% of the work or 15%, and the guys were getting most of it. And what happened, so this is really towards the end of my career, but we can go right to the beginning if you like to. But I'm just so angry, even talking about it, because I was blacklisted. Because my manager, Larry Goldhar, head of the characters agency, was approached by all the men doing voiceovers and commercials. And they said that either she goes or we go. Because I went round to all the people who'd used me before and said, look, the women aren't doing enough work, it's the guys. And then the guys went to my manager and said, either she goes or we go. And that was the end of my career.
Gosh, that must have been terrible for you. So what were you able to do to try and start to change things?
I joined the Women's Committee of the Union and tried to get more work for women. And I used to go to the directors and say, look, producers, I said, a woman can do that voiceover, not a guy. See, in Britain, it's very equal. I really miss working in London because the women have a very strong vote there because of Vanessa Redgrave and the union, because it's a proper union, not an association. Finally, ACTRA has become a union. So if I'd done it today instead of a few years ago, this wouldn't have happened. I did a lot of plays here, and you have my resume too. Some nice plays. It's just voiceovers because the guys were earning a fortune, hundreds of thousands a year. And the women, we were just earning, a small amount because we didn't have enough work. And a lot of the commercials could have been done by women instead of men, which is in England, this is the case. It's pretty equal. And sometimes I've wanted to go back. I've been offered positions like in England again. When I've been there, they said, come on back. We need you here, the BBC especially, because I've done like about 50 productions for the BBC. And I have no problem in going back. But I have a child, I have a daughter, I have a little grandson, and it's like, now I don't think I can do it. You know what I mean?
Do you think this was an issue just within voiceover work in Canada, or was it across all of the arts, in television, theatre and film?
I haven't really looked into it. I think it's improved.
There's a union now.
Oh, and he said there's a union. It's true. The union has, instead of an association, it's become a proper union. And so it would have improved with that. But all I have to do is turn on the radio or TV and find out how much it's improved, you know?
So how different is it to work in Canada as opposed to over here in the UK? Is it just simply a different landscape, a different accent?
It's similar. I don't know. I don't know. I just love acting in Britain. I mean, I liked the theatre in Britain. I think the standard is higher in Britain because of the talent and it's BBC, and I think it's high. I watch the BBC News, just to give you an idea. Every single day at 5 p.m. here, I watch the BBC News because the standard, the quality, the BBC is, I would say it's the highest in the world, quite frankly. I remember doing a wonderful show for the BBC television, and Rebecca Sunnybrook Farm, I think, and the director invited us all for dinner after, and he said, "Did you know that we have the most journalists all over the world from the BBC?" I said, "I didn't know that." And now, of course, when I watch every day at 5 BBC, the journalists from the BBC, they have the money to send a journalist. Every single little tiny village in the world is covered by the Beeb. So of course I miss it. You know, I miss it so badly, but at least I watch the news and I get my kicks that way.
So when you worked for the BBC at places like Television Centre, the Acton Hilton, was there a feeling that it was something special to be part of the BBC?
Oh, absolutely. The world's best. In terms of quality, oh, absolutely. Better than anywhere else. I can't think of anywhere else that has that same standard. So yeah, it was exciting. Very, very exciting doing the radio plays, Bush House and Shepherd's Bush and all the different places I worked in.
So what came first for you? Was it television, theatre, radio?
Oh gosh, I think it was theatre. I did a show, yeah, when I was in my 20s. I did my first show. And then it sort of evolved from there. Television came later. Radio came a little bit, but not too much later. I think, like in Canada, I got the award for Best Voiceover because everybody wanted my voice to do voiceovers. So I've made most of my money with my voice.
So having been successful over here in the UK, when you went to Canada, did that work help you, or was it a case that agents weren't interested in work if it wasn't done in Canada?
When they saw, oh gosh, she's done most of the work with BBC, I was immediately invited in. And I had a choice of agents and directors and, everything. So yes, everybody likes someone who's been trained in Britain.
Whilst at the BBC, you worked on what I suppose is a British institution, Doctor Who, in what must have been quite an interesting and unusual part.
I can't remember what it is. What did I play? I think
You-
the face of Kronos, right. Very unusual, right? It was that was a different thing, but it was okay. It was fine.
It's certainly an interesting scene, as I imagine you would have been in a separate studio to both John Pertwee and Roger Delgado, and it was essentially a vocal role, really. We see your face, but it's all about your voice.
Because I could do anything. I can do anything with my voice. I can change it in any way, and I can do any accent.
Well, I imagine that's perhaps the joys of what you do as an actor. But something like that, you must have been so reliant on the director.
It was different, but you get used to it. After a few seconds, it's fine. You just sort of tune in to that moment, and you take direction wherever it's coming from.
So where did your interest in acting begin? Was it in the family?
Ever since I was 5 years old, at junior school in England, I told the teacher I want to be an actress. So it was ever since I was 5, I wanted to act. And I can't explain why. I don't understand. Because it's not in the family, except my grandmother used to tell wonderful stories, and she was very like theatrical in lots of ways, and storytelling, and she could tell that I wanted to do something creative.
So would I be right in thinking that you went down the drama school route, both with Nina Finburgh and the Royal Academy?
Yeah, Royal Academy, it was just like one term. It was not, I didn't go for the whole time. And Nina Finburgh was the whole time, like every Tuesday it was a 3-hour class. And she chose people who've now become very famous, like the best actors of all. And so I was really thrilled that she took me, because she turned down so many people. And she had trained with Jutta Hagen in New York, who's a very famous woman in New York. And so Nina was like, everybody wanted to be in Nina's class, but she only had about 20 people every Tuesday for several hours. But then if I had an audition, a very important audition coming up, I'd go to Nina privately. But she's just passed away recently, actually. It's very sad.
Yes, I did see, sadly, that she passed away, but there were so many lovely tributes from so many well-known actors, a real testament to it, I think.
I don't know if you know Joe Marcell, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. When he got Fresh Prince, he invited myself, my husband, and my daughter to Los Angeles to spend like a week there. And I went, and he's part of Nina's class. And he's an incredible actor. We're still friends, we still communicate. He's now a superstar. But a lot of superstars, like Elaine Page, you've heard of her, she was in Nina's class. So Nina just chose like a handful of 20 people, that's all, for the class. It was hours and hours long every Tuesday. But it's just improvisation. But it was wonderful.
So what was it about Nina and her teaching that produced so many fantastic actors, do you think?
She just chose us. First, you had to do an improv with one of the actors already there. And then she'd say, because I took a friend of mine who wanted to be in her, and she said, you may as well go home now, to her. And she was very like curt. It's either you get accepted straight away with that particular audition or not. So she said, yeah, you can stay. To me. And to my friend, she said, sorry, don't bother to come back. It sounds rough, doesn't it? But it wasn't really. A friend of mine just died recently. One of Britain's best comedians, Patrick Monckton. And I think he was with the National or the RSC. I think Patrick was with the National. And Joe Marcell was with the RSC, that's right. Yeah, he just died a few weeks ago.
They were in Nina's class.
And he was in Nina's class. He was like so funny. And we did a lot of work together, he and I. We wrote a show together called Mad Wogs and Englishman. And he was part of that. And we had black actors and us in that. The show we put on at the one of the theatres in England. We put it on. And it was hysterical. It was so funny. Really. Like we reversed all the roles, with black and white. It's called like the slaves. So the white actors became the slaves, and we started singing "Way Down the Funny River," and we were the slaves, and the black actors were with the fan and walking up and down. Have you seen the whiteys? Have you seen the whiteys? Where are they? And so it was very successful actually, but we wrote the whole thing. And Joe directed it, and yeah, it worked. That was quite a while ago, but it was such fun.
And I think that's what's so interesting looking at your work, in that there's so many established plays, but also new writing that you've clearly developed yourself. So has it always been important to have some sort of voice within your own work?
I think it's because I like to be kept busy constantly in that profession. I like to, whatever it took. You know, if I was waiting around for a role in something in the theatre or radio or television, in between, we do this, like write our own shows, put them on. Yeah, it's important to keep going.
Of course, over here, you entered the industry at a time when rep was something that every actor did, but often it's, Salisbury, Birmingham, York, but you worked in rep in Nairobi. So how did that come about?
I auditioned wherever they hold the auditions in London. I can't remember where it is now. And I got the job as one of the young actresses. They needed 2 young actresses. And I played some most exciting. I was Ilian and Uncle Vanya and things like that. So yeah, they saw tons of people. And then Heather Bell and we got the 2 lead actresses.
It must have been quite a culture shock to take something like Uncle Vanya over to Nairobi in, I imagine, what was the late 60s.
It was put on really for the Brits living there in Nairobi, working and living there. The Africans wouldn't be interested at all. They had their own theatre company, which was great. But they did it for the Brits because there were so many British people living there and working there, including my friend who died recently, Peter and Jane King. He was head of broadcasting in Nairobi, and he also worked in Afghanistan with his wife as head of broadcasting in Afghanistan.
Yes, I can quite imagine, because the English sense of humour is quite particular, I think.
There's nothing like it in the world, really. I've traveled a great deal, and I miss that. That's the one thing I miss more than anything, is the British sense of humour.
So I wanted to ask, what makes a good voiceover artist? Because there are so many different accents.
Something I've always been able to do. I don't know. I think it's because I play the piano and I'm musical, sort of like I've always been a dancer and an actress, and I've always been able to play the piano. And I think it's rhythm. I think it's rhythm, being able to do all these different accents. Maybe.
You said what sadly happened with your voiceover work, but what happened next for you? Because I can't imagine the sort of person that would have sat still for very long.
I said, okay. So then I became an interior designer of houses. So, because he had an established company, painting and decorating, and they wanted me as a design consultant. And then people started asking for me. And we did the richest woman in Canada, Taylor Thompson, we did her house. I'm not trying to boast. And also Rosedale, a very posh area. I did quite a few houses there. It's just, I have a good color sense, and style and whatever. And I said, oh no, that should be this and this and this. And they listened. And I think part of it here, the Canadians, the wealthy Canadians, like the Brits. They like the accent, and I think it's sort of like a considered almost elitist, to have an English accent and to go to these big houses, and they almost expect you to have an English accent. It's the weirdest thing.
I don't want to take up too much of your time, Ingrid, but I wanted to ask, was there a particular director or maybe actor who really stood out to you when you were working either here or across the pond in Canada?
Well, one of them certainly is Henry Jones. When I worked with him in Regina, he's passed away now, but he was very famous, world famous, and so sweet. I wish he hadn't passed away. So certain people, and Joe Marcell, who's Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It was wonderful working with him. Patrick Monckton, who passed away recently, he's one of the funniest people I've ever worked with in my life. He just died a couple of weeks ago. Very sad. So, and directors, Joe actually directed Mad, Wogs and Englishmen. That was hysterical. That was, yeah, he's a very good director.
Yes, of course, a very interesting actor and director. And I think on that note, I'd just like to say thank you so much, Ingrid, for sharing some of your certainly very unique career with us. Certainly had its highs and its lows, but it's been fascinating to talk to you about some of your work. So thank you so much, Ingrid.